Hey guys, I am Melissa Mara with Vintage Bee Design, and today I am going to talk to you about flipping off of Facebook Marketplace. So probably about a year and a half ago, we had a real estate agent client, and she decided to open her own brokerage, and she needed to set up the office. We had already painted her conference table and several other items for her office. Fast forward to about 6 months ago, the chairs that they had been using weren't exactly what they wanted. I knew the style they wanted, and I had to start looking around to get enough. But we established a budget of $275 per chair, would completely redo the chairs to match the conference table that they had and reupholster them to match the colors that they had going. And this is where this sort of all began. I located 2 dining room sets that had identical chairs and dining room tables. One came with a china cabinet and the other didn't. Also, one of the dining sets had 2 armchairs, whereas the other one just had 4 regular seats. Now I have 6 chairs for my custom and 2 remaining armchairs. So when I found this great dining room table and china cabinet for only $300, I knew that I could make this set coordinate and I'd have 2 full dining sets. I spent $700, ended up with 3 dining room tables, 12 chairs, and 2 china cabinets. Now, you know I am a busy girl, so I did not have time to paint all of this. I took it to Steve and Nicole at Uniquely Chic, and Steve handled all of the painting for me. As you can see, while the chairs are not identical, they are coordinating, especially when you paint them in the same color and put the same upholstery on it. We have not painted the round glass top tables yet because frankly, I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do with them, but we did paint the china cabinets and the bigger dining room table set, and all of those have sold. Before I start talking about how much I sold each piece for, let's go over the expenses. I spent $520 on labor, another $200 on booth commission, and that's in addition to my monthly rental fees. I also spent about another $100 on paint and supplies. It looks like when we take the expenses of $700 to purchase the individual items, another $520 in labor expenses, and another $200 in booth commissions, plus the $100 in the supplies, the paint, and what have you that we needed to purchase, it looks like our expenses are already up to $1,520. I'm gonna have to get some good prices on these. Because the client originally only wanted 4 chairs, they were gonna be $275 each. Since she decided to get 6, I made a deal and sold them for $249 each, which gave us a sale of $1,494. Both china cabinets sold in our booth within a couple of days of bringing them in. The rounded one sold for $495. The more square one sold at $395. And best of all, the person who bought them want 4 more. So yep, I'm looking through Facebook Marketplace for another matching set. The dining room table set, it sold for $800. Together, that gave us a whopping gross sales of $31.84. As you can see, we did pretty well. And while this profit number may not seem as high as some might like, remember, I paid someone else $520 for labor. If you were the laborer, that would be an additional to your profit. And before we move on to our next Facebook Marketplace flip, I do want to remind you about CreativeCon.live. We are going to have some amazing speakers there, and this is specifically designed for people in the creative industry who want to grow their business. If you've ever wanted to be a full-time creative, this is where you want to go. Stop by CreativeCon.live and check out the speakers. The ones you're seeing here are just a few of the speakers that we have. We have more amazing speakers. And of course, you'll get to meet me in person. It's only $295 for 3 days. I think one of the trickiest things is that we were doing all of these Facebook market flips kind of all at once. So I'm gonna break down a couple more for you. I paid $100 for a pair of these beautiful chairs. They had some staining on the seat and on the arms. Otherwise, they were in great condition. So I went to the upholstery store and bought some fabric that would be durable, and we're gonna start taking these apart so we can get it done. As you might remember from last week's video where we started deconstructing that sofa, Sue is in charge of ripping out all of the upholstery. She has the gator grip hands and she is the one who can just plow through this. We do our best to tag team these jobs, but there are certain things that I'm better at and there are certain things that she's better at. And when we can work to both of our skill sets, things go a lot smoother and a lot faster. So while she's ripping out the upholstery, I am going to do some patterning of this arm cushion. I'm going to put some fake fur on here just to add a little bit of texture. So I'm simply using some packing paper and outlining it, of which then I will cut it out of the fabric. Because we're going with a darker fabric and there's nothing really gross about the underneath seat cushion, we are just going to go right over it. So Sue has sort of cut the fabric to more or less fit, and then she's going to sort of painstakingly cut around all of the little details so she can tuck it in and staple it appropriately. Because of the texture of this fabric, there is a little bit of a line going both vertically and horizontally. So she's trying to make sure that that is really straight. Since we're going to actually add additional lines to the back through stenciling, she wants to be sure that the lines are all straight, the tucks are straight, and we've done several chairs now, and each time we get a little bit better at it. The goal here is to cut little notches in the fabric with enough left over that she can tuck it under. Now, I'm going to put some ribbon around the edge so you won't really see it. But again, this is going to keep it from fraying and going to make sure that we have a nice, beautiful finish. Once the fabric is all cut and tucked into place, we are going to go in with a pneumatic staple gun that is run off of our air compressor. We actually have a battery operated one too, but Sue likes the really fine tip of this, and since we do have a nice compressor at work, then this was her option. You'll see we're going to get real delicate around all of the trim work here, and that's where my work with the trim will come later to hide all of these staples. The only thing Sue has left to do is trim off the excess fabric as close to the staples as she can. To add the fur to the arms, 100% all I did was use hot glue. I'm using the Gorilla Glue glue sticks for hot glue guns, and trust me, this really stays on well. I'm doing it around the edges and I'm gonna do it along the bulk of the fabric. This thing ain't going anywhere. And as I do see myself in a Christmas shirt, I do wanna say that it's actually February. I'm just still wearing my Christmas shirts. Next part of this chair makeover is going to be adding the trim work. As you saw in the first picture when I purchased the upholstery, I bought this lovely trim to match and add a little bit of elegance to the chair, I guess is the word I'm going to say. So I am going to do hot glue. I promise you this is how the professionals do it. If you start ripping off trim work, you're going to see. I'm going to hide the staples, and yes, any of this hanging I'm going to trim off or tuck down. As you can see, it just creates a beautiful finished edge. I want to add grain sack striping to the back of the chair, and that's where we didn't touch the upholstery. So in this case, I am using Dixie Belle's Manatee Gray, and I have added some top coat to it. I've added a satin top coat, and I'm mixing them up, and then I'm sort of going to stencil it in place. But before I go at it with the Manatee Gray with the top coat, I'm actually just going to stencil on a clear top coat. And while I love our JRV stencils for the grain sack, since I was doing this on fabric and it's much longer and I really need to be sure there's no bleed through, I only have one chance to get this right, then I went ahead and used some tape, masking tape. So you can see here me just sort of working it in with the stencil brush. The reason I opted for the stencil brush too is because it's very firm on fabric and you need to use a very firm brush. So the reason that I did the top coat first is that way any bleed under the tape would actually be taken care of with the top coat. And then when we're pulling this off, you can see that I actually did 2 coats with the Manatee Gray. It came out perfect. Absolutely beautiful. Both chairs, first shot, which is great because you only get one shot. and I just adore the striping. I had planned on putting another stencil over this, but it's so perfect, I didn't want to do anything else. Unfortunately, I forgot to take a vanity shot of the pair of chairs. I can get one in the future because I sold this to a client we're doing an Airbnb for. I sold the chairs for $295 each, so that does give us a good profit margin. This was only a few hours of work, and our profit was $440 on the 2 chairs. The expenses that we had was $100 for the pair, and then I calculated about another $50 in supplies for fabric and trim work, and of course a little bit of paint and top coat. Overall, definitely good return on our investment and hours well spent. I think secretly everybody cringed when I bought these vintage Windsor back chairs, but they're going into an Airbnb farmhouse that we're doing. They're going to be perfect. And then $200 for this dining table and 6 chairs. I mean, what a deal. And once again, Steve from Uniquely Chic is my guy for this. I'm going to let him cut in now.
What we're going to do is show you a little time-lapse video of us painting 10 chairs today, going from a white primer to black. And it's a chalk-based paint, so you've got to make sure it covers really, really well. And the thing of it is, though, it'll stick great. It's going to bite. It's just that these chairs are spindle chairs, meaning they have little tiny... It's such a pain. Anyway, you'll see it. Vamonos!
Okay, so these aren't the chairs that I showed you, but I actually gave them to him at the same time, and I'll just talk about these in a future video because this is already getting a little long, but this is the process that he used, and he provided this video for me, so I figured I would throw it in because I do think it is helpful. One of the things I want you to notice is that he paints the underside of the chairs first. And I think that's super important because whenever you paint chairs, especially spindly ones like this, if you paint the base, the underside of the chairs first, you'll find it is a much easier process. Even if you're doing it by hand, it's a much easier and much faster process. You'll be able to get more done at one time.
Okay, all of our chairs are done. They're in here now because this is kind of like our drying room and also where they don't get bad things happening to them. So what I'm going to do is, because this is a chalk-based paint and it's black, what happens is that if any dust gets on it, it makes it really tough when you get to your clear coat stage. So what I'm going to do is, I've got some sheets right over there, and I'm going to take those sheets and cover all of this because I have another 14 chairs to do, and I'm going to clear coat them all at the same time. I'm not going to clear coat all of these right now and then have to re-clean a gun. So these are just going to get covered and then wait for clear coat and then distressing. Wait for that part. Vamonos.
All 4 of the vintage Windsor backs are at this bed and breakfast that we're doing. And the dining set recently sold at market, which will be another story for us. Steve did the tabletop, and I actually have some old videos to show exactly how you do this type of finish. So I'll look and see if I can locate that and put it in the description below for you. So how did we do? For our Windsor backs, our sales were $380 for the 4 chairs, and our profit ended up being around $140. Now remember, I paid Steve $140 to paint those chairs, so if you were doing the labor, then that would be your money. For our dining room set, we definitely sold it too inexpensively. We did this because we were at market, and honestly, we just don't want to bring it home. Overall, I think we did really well with our Facebook Marketplace flips. Remember, when you're looking at the total profit here, if you were the one doing the labor where I paid Steve to do it, you would have earned about another $1,000 in profit. On Saturday nights, my husband and Sue are home from the hockey game, and I am relegated to editing in my bedroom. Yes, I actually have an office that I can get it done in, but it's a little too close to the TV and you would be hearing a lot of sci-fi noise right now. I'm not sure what he's watching. I have a feeling it is a Star Wars something or other. But I hope you enjoyed the content from today's video. And I just want to remind you that if you want more great information on making profit, consider CreativeCon.live. I cannot begin to tell you how much great business information you're going to get. And if you are considering doing this for business, you don't want to miss out. If you did enjoy this content, also be sure to hit like and subscribe and consider joining us on our Facebook group, which is Creating the Hive. And remember, that's a group, not a page. The page is old and it was mine, but it doesn't exist anymore. So we'll see you online. You can follow us everywhere at vintagebedesign.com. Thanks.